All right. Testing two. Testing two. Yeah, I started a few minutes early to be sure everything was going correctly. Can you folks hear me? Yes or no, please. Can you hear me? Hello, Ronald Coward. Hello, Rick Stumbell. Hello, Val's Black Cat's Rules. Are we getting any sound? According to this, we should be seeing sound. Or hearing sound. Oh, hear you loud and clear. Okay, good. Then, in that case, I think we've got it. Yeah, it's the first Cast Iron Wednesday of the month. Excuse me. Go off to a good start here. First Cast Iron Wednesday of the month, when we usually do a Cast Iron discussion. And this time, I wanted to try to do something a little different. I mean, as much as I like doing a Q&A session from in front of my cast iron collection, I thought we might do what we've done a couple of times before and what I know Mudbrooker has done before. And let's do some online browsing for cast iron. But we're still encouraging the discussion that we always have. We're still about 3 minutes early, so I'm still going to officially launch this at about 8 o'clock. Like I said, I wanted to start a little early to be sure I had everything set up correctly, and also to give people time to join the chat, because I wasn't able to do an advance warning on this. Hope I'm not clearing my throat throughout the entire chat. Okay, there we go. I see William Hurt. Lake Hickory guy. All right, well, things do look like they are working out okay. As long as the video is streaming properly. Which means, again, officially we will be starting in 2 minutes. This is the part where YouTube would start that 2-minute countdown. All right, and here we go. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, once again to Cast Iron Wednesday, which is a tradition that a number of YouTube cooking channels have been doing now for the past several years. We do a cast iron video on Wednesdays, and mostly we do it to have fun, as well as, of course, to get some content out onto YouTube. There's no denying that, but more importantly, at least in my case, it's been the fun. It's been fun enough that I've been doing this now for going on just about 4 years? 5 years? Good grief. I can't believe how... No, 3 years. Anyway, no, I'm pretty sure it's been 4 years. But nonetheless, we are indeed taking... we are here once again on Cast Iron Wednesday, and I'm trying something a little bit different here tonight. This is indeed the first Cast Iron Wednesday of the month, when I have usually done a Q&A session standing there in front of my cast iron collection. This time, this month, I do want to try something a little different, because I am always in favor of trying something different. and I thought we would do something that we have done a few times before, and I know that other channels, especially the Mudbrooker, have done this. Namely, let's spend some time here doing some online searching for some weird, strange, maybe stupid, and maybe incredible cast iron finds online here. Because it would give us certainly something to talk about. Number one, I'm thinking we could actually do an online search for examples of cast iron from history, which would certainly help give us some visual examples of some of the conversations we would be doing, as well as seeing some of the stuff that people are selling here online, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just as important, yes, that's correct. We are indeed signed on to eBay right now. And hello to everybody who has been here, who has been kind enough to join us here tonight. So yes, we are live, and I do see you folks here on the chat, in the chat here. I see Flash 1999. I see Clico. I see Rick Stumbow. I see Christopher Rice, Rocket Caver. And hello to James 456Z as well. And hello to Val's Black Cats Rules and everybody else who has been kind enough to join us here tonight. Because yes, we are in fact starting out with just an eBay search, and we're going to go from there. But just as important, this is still the YouTube live chat here on my channel, Cast Iron Chaos, and I am indeed still encouraging folks to engage in whatever conversations they are interested in. I mean, you can ask questions about and answer questions as well about cast iron cooking, about cast iron history. And in fact, I'm thinking, the reason why I wanted to do this tonight was to look a little bit more at the history of cast iron, I think, because this at least we'll be able to see some examples, as I mentioned before, of some of the items produced from over history here. Hello, William. William Hurt. Next time as well. Too bad we couldn't hook up. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Here's hoping you get to have a chance to have a real world meetup. But I would like to get things started here with a search here on eBay for what else? Probably my favorite cast iron. So let's just simply do BSR cast iron and see here what we can start up with. I'm going to change this from best match. We're going to do newly listed and see what items here are showing here on eBay. I have managed to do a few good scores on eBay over the past 15 years or so, but those good scores can be hard to find. Still, who knows? We might be able to find something here tonight. You never know. And what's more, if you see something that you want to bid on here on eBay, I mean, of course, you could certainly do so, although you'd have to make your own eBay connection to do that. Right now, it looks like people have put in a number 5 century series, a BSR vintage cast iron saucepan pot, 2-quart stew pan. And, well, this is interesting. A vintage BSR Red Mountain 8G HG2 cast iron chicken fryer set. Going for, excuse my beating heart, $215. Yeah, I would have to say that, like it or not, this is probably, well, let's just say a little bit overpriced here. And Flash 1499 says, my new BSR skillet cooks really well, my first BSR piece. And congratulations on that. I'm glad to hear that you are doing well with that. What we're looking at right now is somebody has listed a pan from what they call the G series of the Red Mountain series. This is one of those unknown pieces of cast iron history that people are still trying to figure out. In that the history of the somebody is actually knocking on the door right at this very moment. Figures. Give me one quick second, please. apologize for the interruption. I actually had to go open the door for someone. But, okay. Okay, the Route 127 sale is going on. Oh, that's interesting. I can only hope you're having a good time there, Fuzzfork8. Cynthia has arrived. Hello, Cynthia Wesley. Back feeding my Anna Tiam. Okay. And Tian. And, oh, Antimals. Yeah. I like that 2-quart saucepan. I don't like it at $119, but I'd like it. Yeah. I would have to agree that these prices do seem a little bit overpriced, wouldn't you say, folks? Yeah, and in fact, what we're looking here is an eBay sale that is most definitely far, far overpriced. And no, I would not recommend a $215 price for anybody. It says here, or best offer. Well, I would say, you know, if you probably took off maybe the 5, for instance, from this, we might talk. Although, to be fair, a Red Mountain chicken fryer, I personally probably would not be averse if I really needed one to seeing something in the range of anywhere between $30 to $50. But that, of course, is nowhere near $215. However, the unusual part is that this is part of the G series. It says here 8G and 8G2, which means these are not exactly it's not exactly a matching lid, although they are both Red Mountain. It's like the lid here has an 8G mark on it, whereas if we go down here and look at the pot itself, it has a marking of HG2. Yeah, the funny thing is, as I mentioned before, started mentioning, the G series is one of those unknown pieces of BSR history that we're still trying to figure out. Namely that Birmingham Stove and Range, between maybe the let's say the 1940s or so to maybe the early 1960s, when they did their first step towards automated production, they did produce a large number of pans in their Red Mountain series, with the mold letters going all the way from A through Z. We've seen 8A, B, C, D, and so on. Yet for some reason they got stuck specifically on the letter G. For some reason, and we have not been able to figure out why yet, we see Red Mountain pans of the G series saying 8G1, 8G2, like this, for instance. I understand it's gone as high as 8G4. And why they get stuck on the letter G, again, we have not yet been able to figure out. Though, of course, collectors then consider this to be something unusual, and obviously we have a seller here who's, well, trying to take advantage of it. I'm not sure if he's going to find any successful sales at this particular price, but nonetheless, at least it's a nice piece of cast iron to look at, and that's what I was hoping to do here tonight. As I said, we can look at some cast iron, compare it to what you have in your own collection or my own collection, whichever you prefer. And again, everybody is really encouraged to ask questions, or even if there's something that you want to search for, please let me know. And yeah, I'm more than open to suggestions here. Let's have some fun. Let's do some searching and see what we can find out. Fuzzfork8, so much cast iron online is way overpriced. That includes vendors. They need to move the products easier by keeping the price under $100, and I can certainly agree with that. That's why I decided to start out by doing a search for BSR cast iron here and see what we can come up with. Like, for instance, right underneath, we have cast iron rare S-Series number 3, a 3S pan going for only $57.50 with a $12.50 delivery charge. So that means the whole thing will come to, just exactly $70 for this little 3S pan. And yeah, I mean, in just about every instance that we see of these ridiculous prices tonight, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but yeah, it's pretty much a given here that this is overpriced. The S series, I mean, unless you really are so obsessed with going out of your way to obtain examples of the S series that you might seriously consider paying something like this. Other than that, I myself, in my hunt for cast iron, have managed to acquire a 3S and a 7S. I have not yet been able to acquire a 5S. But in both instances, those happen to be lucky accidents. I managed to stumble across the 3S at the Brimfield Antique Show, of all places. However, the vendor didn't know what he had, and I actually found it in a pile of cast iron pans, discarded or leftover cast iron pans that he was selling at $5 each for. So I managed to score my 3S for $5. And I'm not just bragging about my particular score. I'm saying that it is quite likely that anybody here who does own a 3S, you most likely did not pay $70 for it. Likewise, the 7S, I found that at an antique mall in southern Pennsylvania. A very nice antique mall that has not exactly gone out of business, although they have had to relocate to another area. They're currently located in Hanover, Pennsylvania, if I remember right. The Black Rose Antique Mall. But anyway, at that place, I managed to find the 7S for about $22. They were not selling it as part of the S series. They were just selling it as a vintage cast iron pan, which made me happy. Did you get your drip drop roaster cleaned up? Not yet. I'm still working on ways to do that. I had taken the suggestion of somebody said to try carbon off. And I'm actually going to be working on that a little later. Not even restored would I pay that. And I can only agree with you there, too. $5? Well, it was a lucky score. That's about the best I could say there. And hello to Radagast as well. As you can see, we are doing some online browsing tonight. But once again, as I said, questions and answers are encouraged here in the chat. Not just about the pieces that I happen to be talking about, but feel free to make any comments you want. And as I said, I am open to suggestions of what you might want to search for as well. Going down the listing here, I mean, we've only just started here. Here is another, what I believe is another Red Mountain skillet. It calls it vintage. Actually, it's not even that. The fact that it says 6 5/8 means that we know this is a Century Series, a later Century Series skillet, and they're still selling it for $23. So that, yeah, no, I would still say that you would do much better in the vintage cast iron hunt rather than paying prices like this. And going down here, we've got a number 5 Century for $32. Let me see. Here is a square skillet, actually, with a $34.99 price. That might not be out of the question if somebody really wants a BS&R square skillet. I have a square skillet, and I think I managed to pay $25 for it, so $35 probably would not be out of the question. Hello, JIR Finishes. Well, I hope so, yeah. We're certainly here to have some fun, and I'm looking to see... Well, if this turns out to be a successful session tonight, we could always do this another time. But right now, let's see how things are going. This one here actually says $16.99 delivery, meaning that if you didn't actually go and pick this up, you'd end up paying $50 for this BS&R square skillet, which might be just somewhat over the price range that I would want to pay for a BS&R square skillet. I've seen videos of cast iron being cleaned with a laser. Is that legit? Yes, it is legit, in fact. They've been going around for years, and interestingly enough, when that viral video of rust being cleaned off of cast iron first surfaced, what was it, like maybe going on almost 10 to 15 years ago? At that time, that was a professional cleaner laser, which I understand was a setup that probably cost about $100,000. Over the years, of course, like just about any other piece of technology, they've apparently modified it to the point where it now only costs I don't know if it's a few $100s or maybe a couple of $1,000s to have a laser cleaner of that kind. But my understanding is the price is getting somewhat more affordable. On the other hand, of course, several $100s or a couple of $1,000s is still quite a bit to pay if you want to if you just want to clean cast iron with it. Shipping tends to cost the price of a new skillet. It certainly seems like it, doesn't it? Them layers are thousands of dollars. Let me see. Going down the list here is a Birmingham Stove and Range shallow fish fryer going for $135. I think I would repeat this again and again. I still don't recommend it at that price. You'll probably do better in the vintage hunt, but still, what we're looking at here does seem pretty nice. A nice Red Mountain series, or first generation if you prefer, of the oval fish fryer, the Sportsman fish fryer, in fact, because this was part of the Sportsman grill setup. And yes, I do have one of these, and this is actually probably one of my favorite kitchen items to use too. I have a lot of favorite kitchen items, yes, but I've gotten a lot of use out of this particular one. Going down the list here, hello R.T. Scott as well, and hello to Corey Clark, and hello Keith Brookshire. Yesterday I saw a pig's head mold, $100, and a number 8 Indian head Wapak, $500. Oh man, ugh. Yeah, it's almost as if they're trying to discourage, casual or beginning collectors, aren't they? When you go to flea markets and shops, do you see much Magnolite? We rarely see any around here. Yes and no. I would have to say, it's not exactly like overflowing. I don't find one at every antique mall or flea market that I go to. I have seen a few pieces around, though, nonetheless. So they are out there. And anyway, cast iron has had a lot of appeal to collectors, as you know. Vintage aluminum, while like everything, it seems like collecting vintage aluminum cookware has probably become more popular over the past decade or so. It is nowhere near in the league of, like, say, collecting vintage cast iron, especially because of the false rumors that are still going around about aluminum cookware being toxic and causing Alzheimer's and all that. I'm not going to get into that subject again, but I will just say that those rumors are false, and that may very well be one reason why collecting vintage aluminum is not as popular as collecting vintage cast iron. And yeah, Corey Clark, like he says, has 3 of them with lids. So anyway, all right, still going down here. Oh yeah, this is one that I focused on earlier. I think I posted a short video of this last night. BS&R number 8 Mercedes cast iron skillet, 10.5-inch rare, only $224.99, and it also has a $19.60 shipping cost. So. Cast iron is cool when it's not, but it ain't precious either, and I can only agree with that as well, William Hurt. Yes, this is in fact one of the as has been discovered. This is in fact one of those former Teflon coated pans. Although, like many of those Teflon pans, the Teflon has long since worn off or maybe been scraped off even. Although if we look here, maybe there might even be a few telltale signs of the original Teflon on this. This particular one actually does have a Wagner design rather than BS&R, which just shows that this vendor here is really, again, he doesn't really know his history. He is, of course, just trying to cash in on it. I mean, he's heard enough that he understands that this is the so-called Mercedes skillet because of the design, and so that's why he is calling it a rare piece. I've recently developed a theory that the DuPont company, the one that actually invented Teflon, and they are the ones who coated BS&R cast iron with Teflon. I'm of the theory that they actually contracted separately with BS&R and with Wagner to produce cast iron, Teflon-coated cast iron. Probably 2 different companies. It's not like they were hiding from each other. I mean, they were just business contracts. but that would be the most likely reason why we see these particular pans with both the markings of a BS&R and the markings of a Wagner. They were most likely produced at those separate foundries. Wagner produced these, and BS&R produced the other version of the Mercedes skillets. Why do they all have this particular design on them? I don't have an answer for that. I would guess, and I have to admit I'm making a wild guess, this could have been another business decision. It may very well be that as they were trying to promote Teflon, DuPont may have put in the requirement, or at least a request, that they design the bottom of their pan in this way, so that it would stand out. And maybe it might even, there have been a couple of theories in the cast iron community that they might work better on an electric stove with the way these things contact the grill, the rings of the electric stove burner. And they might have a point. Maybe that might be the reason why they were designed like that. The thing is we don't have any actual evidence, at least not yet. No documentation about that. But I do feel that they have been making progress in uncovering the mystery of the Mercedes skillets. I mean, we know that they were Teflon coated. We know that both the Wagner and BS&R ones were made by DuPont, and that's why I have just made what I hope is a logical conclusion that DuPont simply contracted with both of those companies, BS&R and also with Wagner. At least, as I said, that's my theory. Maybe I'm wrong, but we will see if and when more evidence shows up. Some of us are waiting for Guardian ware to jump up in price. Oh, I see. Aluminum collecting. And you never know. You never know what will become a fad, quite frankly. The Century fish fryer lid doesn't fit the square handle Sportsman fish fryer. You are correct with that, Corey Clark, because I have one of those. Even though I have the one that was made by Lodge, it was made, as I understand it, with the exact same pattern as the original BS&R fish fryer. So the fish fryer on my lid would on my Sportsman deep fryer, the lid would likely be the same as the BS&R Century one. And you're correct. It does not fit exactly on the Red Mountain or first generation fish fryer. It fits close enough to cook, but it is not an airtight fit. I don't understand Teflon on cast iron. Cast iron is forever, Teflon is not. Well, the most likely reason for this, Radagast, is simply because it is true, Teflon does not last forever, cast iron does. However, Teflon became a huge seller in the 1960s. This was when, American cast iron manufacturers were seriously beginning to feel the heat, the competition from several different outside sources, all of which were taking a bite in their revenue and causing their companies to have, real financial problems. This was in the 1960s, mind you. And there were several factors that were going on at the same time. Yes, it is true that competition from foreign cast iron, like Asian cast iron in particular, was indeed taking a dent in the cast iron market, but that was not the only thing. Probably the biggest thing that drove cast iron out of the spotlight, in fact, was American-made cookware, specifically non-stick cookware, which, like you said, does not last forever. But it certainly became popular enough that it actually, again, made serious inroads into the American cookware market, to the point where cast iron manufacturers, again, definitely sat up and took notice, and so they had to take steps to try to just that, to save their businesses and indeed to attract more customers. That was when they did things like introducing the Made in USA mark on their cast iron skillets, for instance, to try to encourage folks to buy American rather than Asian. And it was also around this time in the 1960s. Oh, I should say, I made a video about BS&R cast iron Teflon coated during the 1980s, and it appears I was wrong about that. I have to make another video, in fact, correcting that. Apparently, this all did take place during the 1960s. But yes, The most likely reason why they did this was to try to get in on the nonstick cookware market, because the nonstick cookware market was taking America by storm. And so BS&R, of course, well, one, they didn't want to lose their business, and two, they wanted to see if they could, in fact, profit off of it. They did a lot of experimentation during those days, trying to see what would sell. Some things did sell, like the cornbread skillet. Some things did not sell, and that included Teflon-coated cast iron. They produced Teflon-coated cast iron, but it really did not sell, and so they eventually just stopped producing it. And that is pretty much how these mystery Mercedes skillets happened. They were an experiment by BS&R, an experiment that did not work. We heard stories about how some people intentionally scraped the Teflon off the cast iron, for instance. And yes, you can make all the jokes about that, and some of them are probably deserved. One problem with finding more Fuzz Fork 8, one problem with finding more cast iron would be in the need to purchase another rack. Well, there is that. Teflon took a lot of pressure off of a lot of bad cooks. There is that too. I mean, we can't deny that, really non-stick cookware, it is really nice. And the big problem with non-stick cookware is the fact that it does not last long. They have spent decades trying to solve that problem, trying to come up with a non-stick cookware that won't quickly wear out. And they still have not been able to do it. At which point then we can say, yes, but cast iron is non-stick. And yes, you're exactly right. It is not as non-stick as Teflon. We have to admit that in that respect, Teflon is better than cast iron. On the other hand, cast iron non-stick is not forever either, because we have to keep re-seasoning the pans. So eventually the non-stick properties do wear out. But again, in the case of cast iron, it's easy to replenish that just by re-seasoning the cast iron. Non-stick cookware, not so much. But we know that already. We know from experience, especially since we've all grown up with non-stick cookware. That seems to be why there seems to be this gap in cast iron history, in that you notice how people today, as cast iron has become had a great return in popularity over the past decade or so, as I've said many times already. People are really cooking in cast iron when they had not done so before. What we hear from a lot of these new folks is, I inherited my cast iron from my grandmother, from my great-grandmother. We almost never hear, I inherited my cast iron from my mom and dad. Because at this point, mom and dad usually were around in the 1960s when the non-stick fad took the country by storm. So that has produced something of a gap between the vintage and the modern. And that's where this comes in. But I'm hoping that's kind of a long-winded explanation of why they did it. They did it to produce revenue. That's the short answer. The longer answer was that they wanted their company to survive, as well as they did want to see if they could try to make a profit on it. Anything is non-stick if you use the right heat. And that's probably a good summary of it, Corey Clark. William, can you see Corey saying you got him blocked? Okay. We know seasoning is way better than burned out Teflon. That is absolutely true, yes. Speaking of which, I posted a mention the other, a couple of weeks or so ago, that it seems that Hexclad has gotten themselves into a lawsuit by some of their customers who, it seems, did not like the fact that their great nonstick coating was wearing out quickly. So that is something you can easily look up, or in fact, maybe I'll do that since we are online here. I'm only going to be very quick here. Hexclad lawsuit. A class action lawsuit was filed against Hexclad, alleging false advertising related to the non-toxic and PFAS-free claims of its cookware. Hexclad has denied wrongdoing, but agreed but agreed to a $2.5 million settlement to resolve the claims. The lawsuit specifically targets the claim that Hexclad cookware was non-toxic. Okay, then I'm wrong. It was not about the non-stick properties. Key details. Lawsuit claims Hexclad falsely advertised its cookware as non-toxic and PFAS-free despite containing a type of PFAS, PTFE. Settlement settled for $2.5 million, includes specific Hexclad hybrid pans and cookware sets purchased between 2022 and 2024. The deadline to submit a valid claim form is November of 2025. Proof of purchase. Consequences of the lawsuit they have faced legal action and negative publicity, and they aim to compensate consumers who are misled. Okay, what this really is, then, more than anything else, is yet another ambulance-chasing lawyer, out to make a buck by cashing in on these kind of scare stories. The scare stories definitely do have some merit. I'm not saying that they don't, but okay, at least if nothing else, this does show what we were talking about a minute ago anyway, namely that nonstick cookware does wear out. That's really the short of it. And yet nonstick cookware became popular enough that it seriously was a serious threat to the cast iron market. I mean, after all, at this point, there is only one major cast iron manufacturer left, Lodge Cast Iron. All of the other major ones, Griswold, Wagner, Martin, Wapak. Well, they were gone by World War II. But the big ones, Griswold and Wagner, were, again, they did not survive because the market changed, and unfortunately, they did not. Ed Giffels, hi. My parents were born in the 1920s too, but they never used cast iron until my dad discovered pineapple upside down cake in cast iron. It's the only thing I remember him ever cooking. Well, it's still a good memory. I mean, treasure that memory. And I'm sure because of your dad, you probably made a lot of pineapple upside down cake. You probably make it much better than I do, in fact. That is true. No rust means safe pans, means handling correctly, means non-stick. Yeah, that's a good summary of it, Val's Black Cat's rule. I did see a Pakistan 14-inch with a wooden lid advertised. Oh, really? Okay, let's get back to this, I guess. BSNR Century Series with matching lid has been bath cleaned. Well, actually, they seem a little bit more honest. This has a $75 price tag, which still seems high, although they are including a lid with this. So even though lids are not as unusual, they are still rare enough that that I'm not sure if this kind of price would be justified, but it probably would not be out of the question. BSR cast iron chicken fryer. Wait a second. BSR, huh? Look at this. Does this look familiar? And it says here, BSR cast iron chicken fryer, marked A on handle with lid marked O, sits flat. Oh dear. Kudos to the seller for trying to say it's a BSR. Evidently, BSR has gotten so popular enough that he hopes that calling it a BSR might get people to look at it. Well, he did get people to look at it, that's for sure. And as Ed Giffel says, this is actually a Wagner chicken fryer. You're exactly right. In fact, I have one of these myself. So it's amusing. Oh, yeah, you know what else is amusing? This BSR cast iron chicken fryer marked A on handle with lid marked O, sits flat. What's also amusing is the $200 price tag. So, yeah. Okay, I gave some kudos to the seller. I think I'm going to take those kudos back based on that particular price here. Especially since it's not only a $200 price tag, but it also has a $40 shipping price. Okay, then let's close this out. BSR Century Series cast iron skillet number 8, crack. So this one's cracked and he's still selling it at this price. Oh dear. On the other hand, here's one. Well, I'm thinking this guy might actually hope to get some bids. Here's a number 3 century for $17.50. Vintage number 7 cast iron skillet BSR for $80. And so on and so on and so on. Boy, these prices, yeah. I think so far the only BSR pan I've seen here tonight on eBay that might be worth considering at this price might be this one here. This BSR cornbread pan with a $25 price tag. Buy it now, $8.50 delivery. That is still a little high because I know a lot of folks have probably been able to score cornbread pans for less than $25, but it's probably not out of the question. And I am hating this heavy Wagner lid. Well, my condolences there, Cynthia. I'm sorry to hear about that. I guess you could do what I've been doing recently and go the route of looking for glass lids, perhaps. I thought that was a Wag too, William Hurt. You are correct. It was a Wagner, in fact. You are absolutely right about that. And still going. We've got BSR Century Series number 5 for $39. 2042. Red Mountain Birmingham Stove and Range number 8. Here's another one, an 8GA. Here's another G Series, one rare. This one has a $40 price tag. Well, at least it's not $200 or whatever the amount that he was selling it for. This particular one here is... Actually, this is odd. 8GA. So it isn't even 1, 2, 3, or 4, but it's an A. That is unusual. I will agree with them on that. Is it unusual enough that I would want to pay $40 for it? Probably not, but it is unusual. This might be the first time I've seen an 8GA pan, in fact. This thing is sadly heavy. Well, again, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, you are considering glass lids. Okay, well, the best answer to that, I guess, is whatever works. Cynthia and I have had some chatters all of a sudden, then poof, back again. Okay, 8GA is the chicken fryer. Well, I'm actually... no, this is not a chicken fryer. We can tell it is not a chicken fryer because it has the heat ring on it. BSR chicken fryers did not have a heat ring. They had a smooth bottom. So this is, in fact, just a skillet. Well, not just a skillet, but this is a skillet. It is not a chicken fryer. And yet it is, and yet for some reason it does say GA. So I agree. It is a mystery. It's part of the mystery of the G series. Who knows? Maybe someday we might stumble across the information needed to figure out what the G series was all about. All right. BSNR number 7, $25. Well, that's a little better for whatever that's worth. But even so, here's another Mercedes, a number 3 Mercedes, no less, with a $60 price tag. Okay, but yeah, all of these are getting pretty darn expensive, it seems like. Here's a dry fry griddle with a $70 price tag. Is this a dry fry? Yeah, actually, this does look like the BSNR dry fry. I will credit them on that. Oh, yeah, there it is. Dry fry. Okay, so it definitely is dry fry. All right. Maybe we don't get... Okay, all of us have expanded our knowledge. Well, thank you again, Fuzz4K. And yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I'm thinking tonight at least we consider this a learning experience. As I said, this while I have done a couple of these live videos before of browsing, eBay and other sites online here live, if folks enjoy this enough, we could always do this again another time. But I am going to go back to some regular cooking next week. I promise that. Oh, here's one. The good old Handy Dan Cornstick pan. Lighting's a little dark. But here is a restored BSR Birmingham Stove and Range cast iron Handy Dan 74H cornbread pan. for going for $115, which does seem to be the price that this pan seems to be going for these days on eBay, unfortunately. So, which is indeed high. And I would have to question, as I said, if anyone other than a die-hard collector would want to pay this price for it. I'm not going to diss anyone who does want to pay this price for it. I would disagree with this price, but everybody, of course, is free to make their own decisions, and I'm not going to dictate your opinion to you. I am going to say my opinion, and my opinion is that this is overpriced, even though this is only giving a $7.82 in shipping costs. So that's actually surprising there. All right. But yeah, the Handy Den Cornstick pan, which of course is one of the last pans designed by Birmingham Stove and Range in the late 1980s. It was produced only a few years before they went out of business. And it's a shame because those of us who've been lucky enough to use the Handy Dan Cornstick pan have agreed this is a really useful pan for making cornbread, or at least corn sticks. The handle really, really helps. And quite frankly, if some company were to try to copy this today and make their own corn stick pan with a handle, well, I would say go ahead and do it because it's actually a nice idea. Spiral potatoes? Maybe I should actually consider that, I think. I'm not joining the modern world when it comes to shopping in this place. I can understand where you're coming from, William Hurt. This type of thing is certainly making the vintage treasure hunt look more appealing every day, doesn't it? All right. And we can keep, for $8 here. Oh, this is interesting. OBO, I forget what OBO means. It doesn't mean original box. Out of box? Well, anyway. Cast iron BSR Birmingham 7-year with handle 7 SB. It says $8. Although I'm sure people will they want people to bid on it. Although it does have a buy it now on it. Hey, here's something actually. Maybe I will actually call this one out. Look at this one, folks. You know, it looks like here, well, it does have a $16 shipping price, which I guess is not out of the question for cast iron either. But maybe if you actually wanted to acquire a Red Mountain series, and it is a Red Mountain series cornstick pan, this might not be a bad value for it. I'm not telling you to drop everything and go ahead and buy it, or that this is the deal of the century. But this might be the first deal we've come across tonight that may actually seem reasonable. Or best offer. Thank you, OBO. Thank you very much, Keith. Keith Brown and Keith Brookshire. That also shows you I'm not an eBay expert. But still, as I said, if you are considering this, I don't know, for yourself as a present or something, this, as I said, does not seem out of the question. I will give kudos to Janet3067 for that. All right. So, who is located in Texas for the record. $15 for a century, number 3. Here is a somewhat newer. Here is a second generation of the Sportsman fish fryer. You can tell because of the rounded handles here. It's the 3052 shallow fish fryer. This one, on the other hand, the fact that they're selling it at a $70 price tag, you would think they would at least clean it up first, for whatever that's worth. All right. A painted another GA? Huh, that's surprising. The GA that I saw earlier, it might be the first time I've actually ever seen this one. And yet this one is another GA. Funny how these coincidences seem to happen. I mean, the painted design is nice, but here it is again. Another 8GA skillet. $35, which is actually, well, it's more reasonable anyway than what the other one was selling for. And this one even has a lower shipping price. This one, in fact, is in Pennsylvania. Arguably, if I wanted to buy it, I don't want to buy it, but if I wanted to buy it, arguably, I could even drive there and pick it up. However, I already have a very good, well-used Red Mountain skillet, so I do not actually need this one. All right, missing Hurry tonight. Wishing he was here. Hardest working picker in cast irondom. Okay, I use my cornstick pans every week. Well, in that case, Ed Giffels, I only hope you are lucky enough to be able to score yourself a handy Dan cornstick pan, because you will. An E-tank would take that off. Yes, it will. I've actually so with the lye bath. I've done that in the lye bath before. But yes, I mean, if you use your cornstick pans every week, Ed Giffels, you would like the handy Dan cornstick pan. I just learned to make cornbread and use the cornstick pan a couple of years ago. My grandkids love it when I make them. Well, you are not only making cornsticks, you are making memories. So definitely thumbs up to you, Ed Giffels. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. Glad to meet you. I recently, JIR finishes. I recently found a BSNR 8C handwritten looking but small ears. Is that Red Mountain? Oh, Red Mountain. Let me bash my head against the wall here. Nothing personal, JIR finishes. I've been hearing so much of that particular argument. And the only answer I can give to your question is, I don't know. I personally think that there was a lot of transition between the handwritten and the more professionally produced Red Mountain series ones. And likewise as well, the whole large ears, small ears thing, it is not a hard and fast rule. It does seem like the older pans, especially the handwritten pans, did have large ears. And it does seem like the not-so-old pans had the smaller ears. But we have seen exceptions to these in both directions. So I would tend to go more with the handwritten rather than the size of the ears. Maybe, as I said, it might be around that time when they started producing the automated pans, and that's the thing again. The other thing, of course, is the date when they actually went from completely handmade pans and their handwritten pans to the first automated production, which I personally tend to agree with the estimate that it would likely took place during the late 1930s to maybe early 1940s. That is my estimate. I have no proof to back this up, though. It is only my estimate and my opinion. My opinion is that they produced those Red Mountain pans with automated production that have the professional-looking size, number, and mold letter. That would mean that they probably produced them for anywhere from 10 years or more before the company actually changed over their cookware line to Red Mountain. I'm sorry, to Century Cookware. So I will still call this a Red Mountain pan because Red Mountain came first. That's the main reason why. Also, there is a little bit, I don't know if you call it of ego involved, but I mean, every collector here, it's like we like the older stuff. So, and since Red Mountain is older than Century, we like it. And I'm not going to deny that, again, a lot of this is opinion. But nonetheless, until we actually get some more evidence to back up our opinions, then they're going to stay opinions. So if you really want to be a stickler, I would call this Red Mountain / early Century, which should satisfy everyone, and which means it'll probably satisfy no one. But that's if you're being a stickler. I mean, any day of the week, I would just simply call this a Red Mountain pan. Okay, dig in the heels and all. Huey is one of my first choice when I need to buy cast iron. I make the world's best pinto beans. Nice. Got to work on my cornbread game. VL X. You know, there's something about pinto beans. And I kind of take this from a joke that I heard. Pinto beans are a superfood, and their superpower is destroying cast iron seasoning. All right, need the recipe for the beans. I saw your video on it, but wondered why, if there was new info. I have not seen new info regarding this. I have seen some folks lately talking about a couple of other things. One of which is that apparently the transition period from the, in the Century series, when they resized a couple of their pans and started putting the mold ID numbers on the Century series pans, more and more this seems to be identified as the year 1979. Unless you're from the South, we'll mop the floor with your VL X. I make some, well, okay. Well, thank you again, Cynthia. It's no, but I'm not from the South either. So, but then again, that's why I'm glad. I'm very proud of my Boston baked beans, which are also not from the South. Okay. I mean, wow, it's 10 minutes of 9 already, and I'm still at this point here looking at BS&R cast iron. BS&R was known for using patterns until they were completely shot. It stands to reason that there would be overlap and reuse of patterns while they were transitioning from one series to the next. I give you a thumbs up on that one, Mudbrooker. I agree there. There is not a hard and fast line. There is rather a very large gray area. And it's because of that gray area that cast iron collectors are arguing so heavily among themselves about that. They don't like gray areas. They want things to be nice and neat. And yeah, well, I know, I like neat. Neat is nice, but history is often not neat. Very rarely is history just simple black and white. There is a lot of gray, and that certainly includes the history of Birmingham Stove and Range as well. I'm still looking at BS&R Vintage Cast Iron. I didn't expect this search here to take so long. I mean, if anybody wants to throw in some comments, what would you like to search for right now? I'm open to suggestions at this point. I mean, I'm still scrolling through and seeing things here, like here is a BS&R Cornstick, the famous cornbread skillet. Here is an enameled BS&R Dutch oven, which is going at a ridiculous price of $200. It looks like with a white top. Oh yeah, and a yellow outside. Oh, it definitely is a Century Series BS&R though. You can see it's a number. It's a looks like it's a number 8 here. So yeah, BS&R did not do their own enameling. All of their enameled pans were done by third parties. I understand that they may have done some enamel work in the very early 20th century, but apparently if they did any enameling, the enamelware foundry was a part of the foundry that burned down in something like 1915 or so. So effectively, BS&R never really did make enamelware. Pintos and Boston baked are two very different things. Yes, they are. No ads tonight. Really? That is interesting. Let me see. Considering that I am streaming from streaming software rather than going live through YouTube, I'm wondering if maybe that might be why the lack of ads. But thank you very much for pointing that out, Rocket Caver. That's actually very interesting. And that might be more of an incentive for me to finally get off my Patushka and actually do some streaming software rather than just simply relying on YouTube for doing my live videos. So thank you very much for the suggestion there. Scotch bowls. Scotch bowls. Okay, let's do that then. Cast iron Scotch bowl. And let's see what we got. I'm going to change this instead of best match. Sorry. Okay. Okay. I'm going to change this here. Instead of best match, I'm going to change it to newly listed, because who knows? If something here shows up that looks like a good bargain, go ahead and jump on it. I'm not going to. So that's if we actually somehow manage to find a good bargain on eBay. Cast iron Scotch bowl number 4, gate mark pre-1890. It claims to be Chicago Hardware Foundry restored with a $150 price tag. What in this would make us think that this is a Chicago Hardware Foundry pre-1890 Scotch bowl? So far, probably thinking of the letters on here. Do those letters say CHF? I am not so sure. I am skeptical. I do not think this is Chicago Hardware Foundry. I think this is, and this might be some unknown manufacturer putting their letters on it, but I am not going to say that this is Chicago Hardware Foundry. All right. Yeah, I'm doing live right now, but what's up?
Amani said she was coming to the house with cannons to dye somebody's hair.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Sorry for the interruption once again. So I'm going to disagree with that. Look, here is a Griswold Erie Scotch bowl, which of course has a sky-high price of $185. Here's one here. Antique Griswold, large block logo, claims to be $35. Maybe they're expecting people to bid on this one. I mean, it's definitely a Scotch bowl. In fact, if you look at it, it says right here, Scotch bowl. How nice of them. So it is actually a nice looking Griswold here. But the only reason I can think of why it would have such a low price is because they really want people to bid on this. So far, there's only one bid on it, so who knows? If somebody here wants to actually bid on this, I'd say, again, go ahead and do so. I'm not going to stop you. Just look this up, Antique Griswold number 3 Scotch bowl. All right, let's close that out. Here is a clean gate mark 1800s 10-inch cast iron Scotch bowl, good bill, not rust, with a $53 price tag. Oh man. Yeah. And Cynthia Wesley got a Wagner number 4 Scotch, and yes, my Spider Scotch I won on mud. Oh, okay. Well, congratulations there. All right. Whatever happened to Scotch bowls? They seem very handy. My best guess is simply that the market probably changed. That would be the reason why they would the manufacturers would have stopped making them, I guess. I mean, Scotch bowls, technically, they were made especially to cook items that burned very easily. That was the thing about Scotch broth. It burned very easily, and that's why they call it the Scotch bowl, because it was made especially for making Scotch broth. My guess would be that maybe as cast iron became more popular in the early to middle 20th century, perhaps exclusive or specialty items like the Scotch bowl might have just faded out, perhaps from lack of sales. That would be my guess. And again, I might be wrong, and if a historian wants to correct me, please do so. CHF didn't start until the early 1900s. Thank you very much for that, Corey Clark. I will agree with you. So, which is why I think that the seller of that CHF Scotch bowl was incorrect. Wagner quotes number 3 Scotch bowl with original bale handle for $80, which looks nice. Here's a Wagner number 4 Arc logo Scotch bowl with a $300 price. Buy it now. I mean, granted, the number 4 ones are less common. There's certainly no denying that, but still, $300, huh? Okay, there's a Wagner ware Scotch bowl. There seem to be a number of these Wagner Scotch bowls. Antique Gatemark Scotch cast iron number 12 round Scotch bowl number 5 heat ring and bale handle, $105. At least all of these Scotch bowls here are in pretty good condition. Because most of the Scotch bowls I see out there in the flea markets and other places, they are almost always incredibly dirty and rusted, and quite often they're cracked. It seems like for some reason with these particular pieces that a lot of them don't take the effort to clean them up. Maybe they're very, very hard to clean up, perhaps. $300, a pittance, buy two. Yeah, sure, why not? Here's a $150 for a Wagner number 5 Scotch bowl. And $125 for Sydney Hollowware Scotch bowl. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I see. Yeah, this is actually it is actually a rare one. This is the one with the Sydney script logo on it. Which would mean that it's definitely pre-1890, pre-1895, the year that Wagner essentially merged with Sydney. So this is actually an unusual piece. $125 okay, if you are a completist and you have a great interest in the history of Wagner cast iron, especially in the older days, maybe this might be worth it to you. If so, here it is. It's not worth it that much to me, I will say that much, but again, I'm not you. I'm not going to dictate your opinion, and if you want to actually try bidding on this particular one or just do the buy it now, well, hey, go ahead and do so. All right, Ricky D at his mom's now. My pockets hurt on those pieces. Yeah, I don't blame you at all. The Goodwill sites are also high priced for cast. Yes. Yeah, actually, meaning no offense to the Mudbrooker, I'm here on eBay tonight, especially because Mudbrooker likes to look at Goodwill. And so I just did not want to repeat what Mudbrooker usually does. So I'm really just here on eBay making some snarky comments and encouraging other folks to do some snarky comments as well. Sydney. Yes, exactly. All right. Maybe Civil War era antique cast iron Scotch bowl, which means that there's really no identifying mark on this. It does. It has the raised size number on there, and it's almost certain to probably have nothing but a generic gate mark on the bottom. Yep, exactly. That's what we have here. So technically they're right. Maybe Civil War era antique cast iron Scotch bowl. I will give them that they're probably telling the truth. On the other hand, yeah, I know, I've said this enough times. I'm not going to say it again. $119. There, I've said it. Okay, let's close this one out. Griswold cast iron Scotch bowl number 3, $125. Here's a Griswold's Erie. Well, this one is actually unusual. Griswold's Erie, no less, number 3, which is why they're giving this one a $289 price. Oh, boy. Yeah, Griswold's Erie. I'm not sure if I got my history wrong on this or not. The period when they produced Griswold's Erie, at first I thought that was actually like the 1880s or so, though apparently I was wrong about that. Apparently, this was like maybe 2 years or so in the early 1900s, something like 1905, 1906. It's like they produced these for only a couple of years, and then they went to the much more famous Griswold slant logo cross skillet or other pans. So this is, in fact, an unusual piece. It says patented of March of 91, meaning 1891, of course. So maybe I still have my dates wrong here. Sounds like I need to get some cornbread to sap up the juice in my bowl. Is this group snarky? Nah. Am I encourage folks to be snarky? Nah. Why would you think I am encouraging you all to be snarky? I finished with a dusting of Popeye's Cajun Sparkle. But nonetheless, if you have never seen the actual Griswold's Erie cast iron, here it is, which, as I said, they produce for only a short period of time. So these are, in fact, quite rare, and that, of course, is why they have given it this ridiculous $289 price tag. This one is somewhat more common, which is why it's only $120. A number 3 cast iron Scotch bowl with the Griswold large logo. Again, this looks in nice condition, though, I will say that. Here's a Griswold number 3 Scotch bowl. This is a Griswold? Or this is a Scotch bowl? Let's take a closer look at this one. This does not look like a Scotch bowl, if you ask me. At that angle, maybe. Wait a second, did I? No, I didn't see a crack, did I? Looking at the bottom, okay, it is definitely a, well, as you can see, it is a slant logo Griswold. There's no denying that. I'm not seeing any identifier. From this angle, it does look like a Scotch bowl, I will say that. From this angle, it does not. You guys are making me hungry. I'm the greedy one in this group. You can't miss on any beans. All of this is making me think maybe we should do beans next week. That might not be a bad plan, perhaps. Looks like a small cauldron. I know. This actually looks more like a Yankee bowl. And this is one of those things I learned, and I'm hoping that I am giving the right information here. There is a deeper bowl, cast iron bowl, that they made during the same time period as the Scotch bowls, and they call it a Yankee bowl, presumably because it was made more like in the northern United States and less so in the South. And the best you could say about the Yankee bowl is just that. It is more deep than the shallow Scotch bowl. I said earlier the Scotch bowl was designed especially to cook foods that burned easily. The Yankee bowl, probably not so much. On the other hand, because the Yankee bowl is deep, then it does have some advantages of its own. But we don't see many Yankee bowls here on eBay, do we? In fact, let me try looking that up. Cast iron Yankee bowl. And, okay, so there are some. Here is a, oops, where did that go? Not finding what you're looking for. Okay, let's change this once again to newly listed here. Erie number 4 cast iron Yankee bowl. Kettle pot number 6. Yeah, this is a nice one here from the Erie days. And yeah, this one is deeper than the, yeah, this actually does look more like that other one, doesn't it? Let me switch back to that Scotch bowl. You see this little ring around the side here? Let's switch back here. Yeah, this does look more like the Yankee bowl than the Scotch bowl, that's for sure. So that actually I'm interested. Awfully expensive flower pot. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Jamie Ledgerwood. Yeah, beans. I would like to see it cleaned and see if it has a red cast to the iron. Okay, and you're obviously suggesting fire cleaning, which of course does have the, yeah, there is always that risk of that, unfortunately. It has the heat ring around the side. Okay, yeah, I think I will agree with what you're saying here, is that the Yankee bowls were deep. I'm not sure if all of them had that heat ring around the side. Here is a favorite Yankee bowl, for instance. This one does not appear to have a heat ring around the side, although it does look more, again, it does look more deep and less shallow. Nice handwritten number 2 on there, too. But I would tend to say that, yes, this does have more of the shape of a Yankee bowl than a Scotch bowl. Look up Maslin Kettle. I think that's what they are. Okay, I'll do that. Cast iron Maslin Kettle. And that one, oh, I see. That is giving us a different shape here. That one is giving us more of a Dutch oven shape, it seems like. So that's not quite the same as the Yankee bowl, I'm afraid. Here's an interesting one. Griswold number 8 aluminum Maslin kettle. with lid. Besides the fact that it has it actually says Maslin kettle cover. So that means you are correct there, Mudbrooker, in that they did actually make Maslin kettles. But the Yankee Bowl was not called a Yankee Bowl. And for that matter, it was not called a Maslin kettle. And for that matter, it had a lid to it. The Scotch Bowl did not have a lid to it. They never made them with lids. So it's a questionable piece of history, I guess. But nonetheless, I think I've learned something today. So thank you very much to the Mudbrooker for that. I notice it has this little notch here, similar to my European-made, super-made aluminum kettle. Going down the list here. Oh, it looks like there are only a couple of entries here for Maslin kettle, in fact. It only gives these few. Why does this one say Maslin kettle when this is obviously a Dutch oven? Favorite piqua, I still can't pronounce it. Piqua. Anyway, cast iron Maslin kettle / Dutch oven with lid, 1916-1935, restored. It's definitely a nice looking Dutch oven, I'll say that much. I'm not sure, maybe they're just using the term Maslin kettle to appeal to folks. But it is a very nice looking Dutch oven. Not sure if it's nice enough that I'd want to pay $174 for it, but it's a nice looking Dutch oven. If you get the time, can you look for a Griswold breakfast skillet? Sure, why not? Let's do that. Curious on pricing. Okay. Griswold breakfast skillet. Vintage original Griswold colonial breakfast skillet. If you're interested in pricing, do you want... Right now we have it as set best match. How about we do pricing lowest to highest to see what we come up with? Because you know the highest is going to be ridiculous. Griswold colonial red cream cast iron 3-pocket rare vintage skillet, $99 or best offer. This one is, of course, the enameled one. Which, a couple of chips in the enamel, but that's not unexpected. Does this say 866 or 666? I think that this one says 866, probably because it's enameled. So anyway, this one has a $99 price, and since we're doing low to high, this is actually the lowest price there. Oh, I've never seen a Dutch oven with a round ring on the side. Let's take another look here. Oh, I see. You're talking about that. Maybe that's okay. You have your homework assignment, kids. Maslin kettle. Maybe that's why they're calling it a Maslin kettle, perhaps. That is interesting. I did not notice that. So thank you very much for pointing that out, Corey Clark. That's actually interesting. Let's go back though, as the asked for, Griswold breakfast skillet. Here's a 666 for $125. In nice condition. I can see he seasoned it and did a so-so job on the seasoning, but nothing wrong with that. And this one again has a $125 price. And again, this is eBay, mind you, where eBay is always overpriced. So vintage, here's another one for $115, another one for $145, $150, $149, $150. Looks like, if nothing else, even though the price is still going up, this might be giving you an idea here in that if you have yourself a Griswold breakfast skillet and you want to sell it, maybe this will give you some hints. If I were to sell this and hopefully still make a profit, I probably would put it anywhere in the price between maybe $50 and $100. So, largely because, again, eBay is incredibly overpriced, and just because they're selling these at this price, it's uncertain how many people are actually going to buy it at this price. So it's really hard to say here. All right, here's one for $200, and still rising. 205, 210. Here's another enameled one, rare. This one's a yellow enameled, and this one has a price of $219. And as we still keep going, here's one in much better condition with a $225. Here's a small logo colonial breakfast skillet with a $229 dollar price tag. Patent applied for. Still number 666. I saw somebody commenting about once again about 666 being the number of the beast. Again, when they were talking about this on one of the cast iron identification groups just the other day. I am not going to come down on that guy for that, even though I do not believe that the number 666 has any bearing whatsoever. Just because some kook wrote it down in the Book of Revelation, I don't think there's anything to do with the number 666. But one, I'm not going to come down on that guy for saying that, and two, this was just a coincidence. There was absolutely nothing symbolic about the Griswold breakfast skillet having the number 666. They just happened to apply that catalog number to this, and evidently they probably didn't really see much importance to that number either. Otherwise, they would have changed it. And that's probably all I'm going to say about 666. According to Google, Maslin kettles were designed for making jams and jellies. Oh, that's interesting. I've made jam in my cast iron before, although I didn't have a special pot for it. I believe I made it in an enamel Dutch oven, if I remember right. I see the 666 breakfast skillet selling for $125 to $150 pretty regularly. Okay, well then I would take your suggestion, Mudbrooker. So to the person who is asking about pricing, I would probably agree then with the Mudbrooker and say that if you wanted to give it that kind of a price, well, I'd say go for it and then go from there. There's a cross above the 666. Well, yeah, that's another point there, Jamie Ledgerwood as well. If you really want to get into religious symbolism and cast iron, then you can start talking about the Griswold cross. And I think I'm going to end that particular subject right now. Okay, going up. I'll be a few more seconds here. $249, $265, $275. And now we're getting into the much more rare divided cast iron breakfast skillet, which has a $500 price. Oh boy. Oh, and this is the end of the listing, actually. There's actually no more after this. So it looks like the highest priced breakfast skillet here is $349. The compliments Cliff Cornell. I think I saw this on Facebook maybe a few weeks or so ago. The guy selling this, I think he actually posted it to Facebook, the Cleveland Flux Company. Oh yeah, this was the advertising skillet. So, Halloween is on Friday the 13th. It hasn't happened in 666 years. How about that? Yeah, there you go, Corey Clark. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Not only that, but this is also going to be the first year that Christmas falls on Friday the 13th, too. How about that? Okay. Although for the record, by the way, Friday is the full moon, the August full moon. I actually went looking for Chinese moon cakes for the full moon, and I was told, no, it's not this month, it's actually next month that the Chinese celebrate the full moon with moon cakes. So we've got another month to do that. Griswold conspired with Procter & Gamble on their logos and catalog numbers. Okay, all right, I'm done. Okay, I'm done with this subject right now, and we are actually starting to get into our time here. It has actually taken about an hour and 20 minutes or so already. Wow, all I've been doing is browsing through eBay here, and I was actually expecting to go through several different subjects too. I didn't mean to be rambling on and on and on about the same subjects for this much longer. This really suggests, I think, that there's actually the potential to do at least a couple more of these kind of live videos here, because I could see there's a lot of stuff we can learn. I mean, a lot of stuff I can ramble on about, but looking at this cast iron, quite frankly, is a pretty good history lesson. It has taught me a couple of things. I did not know about Maslin kettles, for one. So I'm actually considering this to be something of a learning experience here tonight. So I guess I'd like to ask as well, folks, how'd you like it? Don't worry, I'm not going to make this really a regular occurrence here. I enjoy cooking in my cast iron, and I still want to do the majority of my live videos and all my videos having to do with cooking. On the other hand, I also enjoy cast iron, as you know, and I'm still going to be doing those Q&A sessions and other conversations as well. But as I said, I wanted to give this a try. And I myself enjoyed this, and yeah, exactly. Time flies. It did actually get us through this far. And Mudbrooker says, "Do it again." The only numbers that spook me anytime is property tax day. That's good. This was fun. Yeah. Well, thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Then I'm glad everybody liked it. As I said, I had fun, and this was pretty easy to do too. All I had to do was set up my streaming software. I didn't have to set up my camera and everything downstairs. So this is actually kind of like lazy for me. So yeah, I like that. And thank you very much. Thank you for the good words there then, folks. Okay, I think we will consider this. I'll find some other time to do this as well. And besides, it would make a good time filler too. So I'll find some other time to do this as well, because as I said, I have learned a lot here. But as I say every week, really, the reason why I do this is because of you folks here. Having you folks here to have these conversations with. Even though these conversations seem to be mostly me talking and talking and talking and talking, I am reading your comments, and as I said, I really enjoy having you folks here to do when I do these live videos. So this is actually a lot of fun. So thank you very much, and thank you as well to Radagast for saying so, and thank you to Cynthia Wesley. Thank you to R.T. Scott and Ed Giffles. Well, this was your first time on Live Wednesday, and this was when I was doing something different, too. I hope you come back next week, Ed Giffles, when we're going to be doing something a little more traditional for this channel. We're going to be doing some cooking. How about that? And from the sound of it, we might be doing beans, or maybe even spiral potatoes. Okay, but yeah, fun, chatty show. Well, thank you very much. Those prices get your dander up. Yes, they do. And thank you to everybody, though. Thank you to Kathleen Tripp. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm glad everybody enjoyed this. Thank you to Fuzzfork8 and Radagast and Corey Clark and all of the other folks, again, who have been kind enough to show up here regularly for Cast Iron Wednesday. Because, as I said, this is a lot of fun for me. It's a good stress relief. And I'm really, yeah. And thank you for coming into my home tonight. Thank you for being here as my guests, and I certainly intend to treat you all as my guests, and I'd like to be very nice to everybody, to all of my guests. So thank you to everybody who's been kind enough to be here, and I guess we'll just have to do this all again all over next week. Like I said, we won't be doing this next week, but we will be seeing you here again. Which is why I can only end this the way I always end this, with a quote from my favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey. See you next Wednesday.